14. The next few days moved past in a blur. Nightmare days was the way Kit thought of them. The last of October became the beginning of November, and the final leaves drifted from the branches of the trees around the pond, leaving them stark and bare against the heavy gray of the overcast sky. Outside, the air was damp and chill with the promise of winter, and within the walls of Blackwood, a different sort of chill prevailed. Even in the daytime, the house seemed filled with shadows, and in the evenings the girls gathered in the parlor to share the bright reality of the glowing TV screen, with a sense of relief at finding the banal program still the same. "It's as though this is the real world," Sandy said thinly, gesturing toward the screen on which a rubber-faced comedian, tossing her hair flamboyantly, was imitating a famous pop star. "And we are the make-believe. Sometimes I wonder if I'm real at all." "You're real, all right?" Kit told her. "We all are. But for how long? We've got to get out of this place as soon as possible." "How?" Sandy asked hopelessly. "We can't get to the phone. Madame keeps the office locked at all times. The gate at the end of the drive is padlocked, and there's no way of getting over the fence. I know because I went down to check. Those spikes on top aren't decorations. They're for real." "I think you're making too much of this," Ruth interjected. She reached over to turn down the volume of the TV so they could talk more easily. "We'll be going home at Christmas time. That's not very far off. In the meantime, how many people our age ever get to be intricate parts of such an original experiment?" "Honestly, Ruth," Sandy said in amazement, "I actually think you're enjoying this. You don't seem to be upset by it at all." "I was in the beginning," Ruth said, "before I understood what was happening, but now, well, I guess I'm more excited than anything. Imagine having an opportunity to be in on something so significant. It's a breakthrough in science, and the insight it's giving me is incredible. I have a grasp of mathematical concepts that I never would have believed were possible before." "But it's not you who's grasping them," Kit objected. "It's somebody else working through your mind." "Not entirely," Ruth said. "That's the difference between our situations. You feel that you're being used as a vehicle. You don't have any understanding of the music that's coming through you. You simply let it flow through you, mechanically, the way Sandy does her poetry. But in my case, I am able, just barely, to begin to get the meaning of the knowledge that's coming through me. Math and science are my thing. They always have been. I feel now as though I've been sitting all my life inside a box, and suddenly someone is lifting the lid and I can look up and see the stars." "Then there's no actual personality coming into your consciousness?" Kit asked her. "Not the way there is with Sandy and me?" "Not that I'm aware of," Ruth told her. "I think perhaps what I'm receiving is a pool of knowledge from a lot of different minds. There may be 100 different mathematicians and scientists pouring all of their accumulated thoughts and theories into my head. And if I can receive and handle all that, and eventually grow to understand it, there will come a time when it'll be my knowledge too." "The way Linda's painting is hers?" Sandy asked bitterly. "She's living in a world that doesn't even touch ours anymore." "Well, Linda's different," Ruth admitted. "She's kind of gone nuts." "She's possessed," Sandy said. "We have to escape." Kit made her voice firm. "There has to be a way." She broke off the sentence at the sound of voices in the hall. Professor Farley appeared in the doorway. His crinkled old face was as friendly as ever, and his white hair and little pointed beard gave him the look of an underweight Santa. 9:30, he said pleasantly. "It's time for you young ladies to be climbing the stairs to get your beauty sleep." Glaring at him, Kit got to her feet. "I don't need beauty sleep. All I need is to get out of here and go home. My stepfather is an attorney. Did you know that? You just wait until he finds out I've been held here against my will. He'll put you in jail." "Now, Kit," the professor said, "we don't need that kind of talk. Your parents have placed you in our charge for the semester, and it would be very lax of us indeed if we let you go charging off in all directions. You are our responsibility, both legally and morally." "Morally?" Kit growled. "You don't know the meaning of the word. What about all the letters we've written to our friends and families? The ones we've laid out in the hall table for you to mail for us in the village. You stole them. Do you call that moral? It's not only wrong, it's illegal." "Nobody has stolen anything," Professor Farley told her calmly. "Your letters are in a neat pile in Madame's office, and you may have them back any time you so desire. And some of them did go out, the early ones in which there were no disturbing references to strange dreams and odd things happening. I'm sure your parents were delighted to receive them." "One thing I've been wondering," Ruth said. "What happened to the other schools? The ones in Europe? Madame had 2 of them there. Why did they close down?" "For various reasons," the professor told her, "none of which have anything to do with Blackwood." "What about the girls in those schools?" Sandy asked. "What kinds of talents did they have? Did they compose music and write poetry?" "Indeed, they did," Professor Farley said. "Many beautiful contributions to the culture of the world came forth from Madame de Ray's previous students. I think I may go so far as to say that some of their creations were masterpieces." "Then where are they?" Kit asked him. "What was done with them? Why haven't we ever heard about them?" She paused as a thought occurred to her. "The Vermeer. The one Madame said she discovered at an auction? She didn't buy that painting at all. It was painted by a student at one of her other schools. Madame got a fortune for it. She sold it as an original." "It was an original," Professor Farley said. "It was the work of Vermeer, no matter whose hand it was that held the brush." "But couldn't experts tell the age of the painting?" Ruth asked in bewilderment. "The paint would be different, and so would the canvas." "You are forgetting," Professor Farley said, "that Madame is herself an expert on art. She supplied her students with used canvases of the proper vintage, scraped down to the original gesso. She was also able to supply paints made from lapis lazuli and cochineal. The final look of aging is not difficult to achieve. We baked the paintings in a 100-degree oven for 2 hours, and then rolled them to bring up the craquelure. No one can tell the painting is anything but authentic." They had thought of everything. "I won't go to sleep," Kit told herself. "I may sit here all night, but I will not close my eyes." It was a futile vow, and she knew it. Sleep waited behind her door like an all-encompassing fog. The moment she stepped into her room, a heavy drowsiness would fall upon her, almost as though she had been administered a sleep-inducing drug, and her eyes would be falling closed before she reached the bed. Tonight she fought it by crossing to the window, pressing her forehead against the cold glass. She stared out into the night. At first she could see nothing but darkness. Then, as her eyes became adjusted, she saw the black shapes of the trees begin to emerge against the sky and realized that somewhere, too high to be seen from the house, the moon must be hanging bright in the sky. "This is the wing," she thought, "where the Brewers slept. Perhaps the Brewers' babies were born here. This is where they had their nursery and where the parents had their big master bedroom." Suddenly, there sprang into her mind a vivid picture of a woman, perhaps a little younger than her own mother, standing at this window just as Kit herself was doing now. The woman was plump and dreamy-eyed, and she loved her home. She loved to stand here and gaze out at the summer garden and the stretch of smooth green lawn leading to the sparkling pond. The world seemed to shift. The night lifted from Kit's eyes, and she could see before her the same scene that the woman saw. A lush garden abloom with flowers and a sunlit lawn on which 3 little boys were playing. A baby carriage was parked in the shade of an oak tree, and a uniformed nurse wearing a sun hat was leaning over it to speak to the tiny occupant. "How lovely," Mrs. Brewer thought. "How happy I am. What a beautiful, beautiful life this is." Kit felt the glow of the woman's happiness sweep through her, as though it were her own. Then, as quickly as it had come, the vision was gone. She was herself again, Kit Gordy, and it was November, and outside the night lay thick across the brown lawn. Turning away, Kit went over and sat on the edge of the bed. Madame's words came back to her. Their vibrations remain here still, a part of the house. Somehow, in his desperate grief over the loss of his family, Mr. Brewer had managed to call them back to him. The gentle, sweet-faced wife, the romping children. He had closed his doors to the outside world and continued to live with his spirit family, just as he would have if they had been with him in body. It was too much to contemplate. Sleep was pressing upon her now. Kit could feel the weight of it upon her eyelids. "I won't give in," she told herself vehemently. "I won't." Softly, at the edge of her mind, she heard the music, faint and far away, but ready to move closer, to close in upon her and take her over if her consciousness faded even slightly. "Go away," Kit cried silently. "Whoever you are, go away. You've had your time on Earth. This is my time. Mine." The bed was soft, tempting, drawing her backward. Her head touched the pillow and sank helplessly into its feathery depths. Above her, the wine-colored canopy seemed to sway, dizzily, hypnotically, and in her ears the music grew louder. It was not just the sound of a piano this time, but strings, the high, sweet voices of violins, the richness of violas, the melodious ripples of a harp. And then there came a flute, shrill and true as the song of a bird. "No," she wailed, "no!" But her resistance was gone, and it had closed upon her, and she was a part of it, being carried along on the sweeping tide of sound. "You must write it down," the dream man told her. How easily he came to her now, as though he belonged there, at home within the confines of her mind. "You must put this on paper. It is too great to lose." "I can't," Kit replied. "I don't know how to write music." "I will tell you. Get up from the bed. Here, take my hand. Let me lead you over to the desk. Pick up a pencil." "I don't have any music paper. You should know that." "You do. See?" And she did. It was there. A music notebook with the staffs outlined in pale blue awaiting her use. Someone had brought it and placed it in her room while she was down in the parlor. Madame? Jules? The same person who had come into her locked room on another occasion to remove Linda's first portrait? Once the question would have seemed important, but now it did not matter. One or another of them. It was all the same. "I don't want to," Kit said. "I don't want to write down anything. You can't force me to do something that I don't want to do." But even as she spoke, her hand was reaching for the pencil. Her fingers closed around it and she lifted it and drew the paper toward her. "Kit!" Through the pounding of the music there broke a familiar voice calling her name. "What? Who?" With a decisive wrench, Kit tore through the barrier between the two worlds. It was Sandy who was standing in the doorway. She was dressed in pajamas. Her hair was mussed from the pillow, and her freckles stood out in startling relief against her white skin. "It's so cold in here," Sandy said, wrapping her arms around herself. "Is your window open? How can you sit there like that when it's like the inside of an ice—" She did not finish her sentence. The pencil in Kit's hand flew from her grasp and broke with a loud snap in midair. As though fired from a gun, the pointed end shot straight across the room. Sandy screamed and threw her hands up to cover her face. In horror, Kit watched the stream of blood burst forth from her friend's forearm. "Sandy!" she cried. "You're hurt!" Slowly, the red-haired girl lowered her hands and stood gazing in bewilderment at the thin shaft of wood protruding from her arm. Dazedly, she reached over with her other hand and drew it out. "Here, sit down." Kit hurried over to her and, with an arm around her waist, drew her over to the desk chair. "I'll get a washcloth. We've got to stop that bleeding." She went quickly into the bathroom and grabbed the cloth from the edge of the sink and ran cold water over it. Then she wrung it out and carried it back to the bedroom. "Press this over the spot." "No, I will. Wait. I can use both hands." Sandy stared at her in disbelief. "Why did you do it?" "Me? You think I did this?" Kit exclaimed, holding the cloth tightly against the injury. Well, didn't you? Somebody broke that pencil and threw it at me. If you didn't, who did? There's nobody else. Her voice broke and understanding came into her eyes. I'm sorry, Kit. Of course you didn't. He was here, wasn't he? The one with the music? Yes, Kit said. Her hand was shaking as she pressed it upon the washcloth. She felt sick. Why? Sandy whispered. What does he have against me? It wasn't you, Kit said. It would have been the same with anybody who had come in just then, who had broken his control. He had me, Sandy. I was going to write down his music for him. When you called out my name, your voice came through to me and I got away. Who was it? Sandy spoke with a choking sob in her voice. Schubert? I don't think so. It's been a long time since it was Schubert. That is, if I can judge by the music. In the beginning it was lovely, but now it's different, wilder, more discordant. It doesn't feel like Schubert. It's the same with me, Sandy said. That's why I came here tonight. I had to tell you. Ellis is gone. Gone? Kit felt a sudden surge of hope. You're free? No, oh no. It's just that Ellis has been replaced. This new one. I don't see him like I did with Ellis, but he's there. I feel him come into my mind and it's like smoke, thick and gray and dirty. Did he tell you who he was? He doesn't tell me anything. He doesn't talk to me. He talks through me. He speaks some foreign language. I can't understand him. We should have guessed it, Kit said. That there would be others. Ruth told us it was that way with her right from the beginning, with a whole host of people pouring their thoughts into her. I felt it too, the night I woke up in the music room. It wasn't just one voice then, but a lot of them, all bidding for me as though I were some sort of community possession. But why? I mean, why now when at the start it was just one? Maybe the road's wide open now, and they can all get through. Then we can expect it to get worse? More and more of them crowding into our minds, shoving our own thoughts out until there's nothing of ourselves left? Sandy was crying now, soft, hopeless crying which had nothing to do with her injured arm. Kit lifted the cloth. The blood was stilled. Raising her head, she met the misery in her friend's face with that on her own. We've got to fight it, she said. We can't give up. We can't let them take us over. But how can we help it? They're stronger than we are, especially when there are so many of them. They don't have to stop to sleep the way we do. They can keep at us constantly. Then we'll have to get out. We'll plan our escape. After all, there are 4 of us. That's 4 against 4. If you count Lucretia, who's so devoted to Madame she'll do anything for her. It's even sides. You're counting Linda as one of us? What good will she be? And Ruth? She's more on their side than ours. She likes what's happening. Sandy shook her head. You're dreaming, Kit. There's no way. We'll never break out of here. Our only hope is Christmas. If we hold out till then, we'll go home for vacation. Our families expect us. There's no way Madame can hold us here over the holidays. That's true, Kit said, and Madame knows it. And that's what scares me worst of all, because it doesn't seem to bother her. How can she accept the fact that we'll leave here and tell the people who love us and never come back again? The answer lay there between them in the stillness of the room, too horrifying to acknowledge. Don't say it, Sandy said, but Kit spoke the words anyway. By Christmas, she said softly. It won't matter any longer. We won't have to be at Blackwood for them to get through to us. They're digging in deeper every day. By Christmas, they'll be part of us, the spirit people. They'll have such control that no matter where we go, no matter what we do for the rest of our lives, we'll belong to them. Chapter 6